is the Mindset Athlete Podcast, and I'm your host, James Roberts. I'm a two-time Paralympian and owner of James Robert Fitness, which is an online training, nutrition, and mindset coaching business. And each week on the Mindset Athlete, we like to bring you, inspirational athletes, a message or experts talking about human optimization to teach you how to change your perception of your mindset and become 1% better. And on today's show, I've got Winston Ben Clements. He's an award-winning international speaker with a mission to create a world without limitations. His 2018 TEDx talk entitled "Your Limitations Are an Illusion" has impacted tens of thousands of people online. Born with a condition known as brittle bone disease, Winston suffered from frequent and painful bone fractures that disrupted most of his childhood. So welcome onto the show, Winston.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, dude.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. So before we delve into today's episode, Winston, how, in terms of, obviously for the audience, how impactful was your condition on, obviously, your early childhood going into later life?
Yeah, massively. But it's a bit of a strange one, James, and because I get this question a lot. You know, people say it must have been super hard, being born with this disability and having to overcome all these challenges. And in my case, it was mostly to do with my bones. So my bones were super weak. So when I was younger, and you know how kids are, kids like to play, kids like to push, right? And I wanted to do the same thing, but my body couldn't handle that. So, any small contact, to be honest, even something like a big sneeze could potentially cause me a fracture back in those days. So you can imagine people had to be like super careful around me and stuff like that. And obviously I had to be careful as well. And so the impact was, I have this mindset where I want to get involved in everything. Like I said, when the kids are playing in the playground, I want to be in there as well. I want to play. Growing up, going to school, going into my career, and even going into what I'm doing now with the speaking and training, I've just always wanted to get involved. And so the big challenge for me perhaps was having this ambitious mindset, but also maybe not having the body to support me to do everything that I wanted to do. So I've had to sort of come up with strategies and ways of enabling me to still go after my dream despite not being born into the perfect container.
But would that be a sense of, obviously from an outside perspective, people would say you've had an adverse upbringing, but because you've had that mindset of adaptability, is that why you envision? That's probably why I can relate, because I have the similar, so to speak, upbringing in terms of my disability. You have that adaptable mindset. Well, okay, this is the hand that I've been dealt, but let me come up with a solution that's going to work for me.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, and it's a funny one as well, because the other side of it is, I don't know about your condition, but I was actually born with this condition. So it's not like I was, perfectly able-bodied and then I lost something. I lost my ability to walk or something like that. So this is all I've ever known. So, and I think what that meant is, it's not like I remember how it was when I could walk or when I could do all these physical activities. For me, I've always just had to be a problem solver from day one. Because I'm sure you can relate, and there'll be people listening to this who can relate, especially if you're from a different background, whether it's a disability or something else even. The world is not necessarily designed to cater for all different types of people. So in my case, I'm a wheelchair user, right? And I live in London, and you think, London, one of the biggest cities in the world, should be perfectly catered for someone in a wheelchair, but not necessarily. Many places are good, but many places are not so good. So I've always grown up with that mindset of, if I need to solve a problem, like get into a building or get into a car or just something to allow me to get to where I need to get to or to do what I need to do, then I'm just going to figure it out, which I think is a big advantage for anybody who hasn't been born into the perfect conditions, because you kind of have to think on your feet a lot more.
So are you more of a person that does things from that perspective off the cuff than as opposed to more forward planning then?
I think I have quite a spontaneous personality. Um, so I mean, I have to be sensible as well because let's say I'm flying to America in 2 weeks, for example. 2 weeks, 10 days, and so for that, I had to be sensible and I had to ring up the airline and say, hey, I'm going to be traveling in a wheelchair. Could you make the arrangements to make sure I can get on board and that kind of thing. So I have to be sensible in that way. But let's say on another example, if somebody was to ring me, even, after this interview and say, hey, Winston, we need you to come in tomorrow. We need you to come and give a talk to our audience. It's a conference with 1,000 people. It's in Manchester, and I live in London. I'm not going to be like, no, 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 I need time to plan this, and I need to put things in place. I'm going to say yes, and then I'll figure it out, as I go along.
That's I think that's very poignant and a good way to think about things. Is doing it within the scope of where you're at in terms of that. So coming back to the initial idea of obviously your TEDx talk, why do you have this way of thinking in terms of a limitation is just an illusion? Put that into perspective for me.
Yeah. So to be honest, I feel like that is almost, if I could sum up my life up to now in one sentence, it would be that. Because when I was growing up, we touched on my condition, we touched on the fact that I had these, I still have these really fragile bones, but not as fragile as I was when I was a kid. And I remember in those moments when, I was having all the breakages, all the fractures, and, more than the physical pain, I think the thing that I was impacted most by was the fact that I used to sometimes go into a dark place where I would think, wow, am I ever going to be able to have a normal life? Am I ever going to be able to get a job, buy a house, live independently, get into a relationship, do all these normal things that I see other people doing? Because come on, look at me. I can't even, go a month or 2 months without breaking a bone. So what kind of life is this? So for me, in many ways, the physical stuff is obvious because everybody can see it. But for me, the biggest factor was on the mental side. And so what that sort of taught me was that, after I was actually able to then go on and start doing some things, like, going to school, graduating, working for really big companies, which I never would have imagined me having an opportunity to work for. Once you start ticking those things off, it gives you evidence to believe that actually the way you see yourself today is not necessarily how you're going to perform or what your results are going to be in the future. Um, and so, which ties in nicely to that line, right? Limitations, when I was 5, 6 years old, in my bed, crying myself to sleep, thinking what life is this going to be. In those moments, that all I could see was limitations. But now, fast forward 20 plus years later, I can look back and I think, why was I crying myself to sleep? The life is never as scary, or the limitations are never as impossible as they appear on first glance, if that makes sense.
Do you think in the early days that you were putting a barrier, a ceiling, so to speak, on what was actually not necessarily physically possible, but actual your inner beliefs that what you could achieve? You were putting a figuratively, not figuratively, a metaphoric ceiling on your actual capacity to actually achieve something.
I think so, and I think this should be relatable to a lot of people listening right now, because I think the ceiling comes from evidence of you having achieved something. So, for example, when I was a kid, 5, 6 years old, and all I knew was physical pain, right? In those moments, all I knew was physical pain. So for you to come along and tell me, one day you're going to be able to travel the world doing public speaking, I could not relate. I had no bridge to that world, from where I was back then, if that makes sense. Um, but it's only when, what I would say is when you start achieving things, or the other way is when you have people that believe in you. So in my case, I had parents, later on, I had friends, I had mentors, I had coaches. Um, and then I started to see that these people actually believe in me more than I was prepared to believe in myself at that point. Yeah. And so I found myself in a position where, I still probably had some doubts as to what I could realistically achieve in life. But because now I'm starting to surround myself with people who believed in me, then I was more willing to try for things. I was more willing to put myself out there, to go for the jobs, the big jobs, to go for the public speaking. And then you start to achieve things, right? And then as you take those things off, your own ceilings, seem to go higher and higher.
Well, I think it's in the sense of what you're alluding to, Winston. I think it's somebody from an outward perspective gives you that confidence to go and, so to speak, give you the authority to give it a try, and what have you got to lose kind of mentality. And I think as you talk about the successes come on board, your confidence within yourself then thus grows, and then you're more willing to do not outlandish things, but more things that you thought were not more than capable, that things that thought you weren't capable of achieving are now realistic.
Yeah, because I think success gives you momentum, right? So it's almost like, I don't know, what's a good example here? It's almost like teaching a kid how to ride a bike, right? And initially you have stabilizers. You have the stabilizers, and they ride with the stabilizers, and then they feel a little bit more confident because now they're able to to maneuver and to control the bicycle, and then you take the stabilizers off. They fall down a few times, um, but you're there. Mom and dad are there. Say, "Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do the stabilizers. You can do this." You're gonna fall down a few times, but that's normal. It happens to everybody, and you encourage them. So for me, my parents, my coaches, people that I'm surrounded with, they were, the ones who were saying, okay, now go for bigger things, go for better things, because you've proven that you can do it with the stabilizers, with all of us around you. So believe in yourself that you're actually capable of going for it, even in your own strength.
But why do you think, more specifically for you, Winston, that people are somewhat anxious, fearful of stepping outside of this realms of what is comfort?
Yeah, it's well, because the comfort zone is a good place to be, uh, basically. Because if I'm in the comfort zone, yeah, it's literally exactly what it says on the tin. It's comfortable. It's almost like if you imagine, to use a house analogy. I'm in my flat right now. It's not raining outside, but let's say if it was raining and I had to go and do something outside, um, maybe something even like really important or something really useful to help myself or somebody else, right? Um, I would still be tempted to stay indoors in my nice apartment than to think, hey, I need to go outside and do that, really important favor for James. Um, and it's the exact same thing with the comfort zone. A lot of the time, people will just play it safe, um, because at least they know what that feels like. Yeah, you know what that feels like, and as opposed to me saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna get soaked in the rain, to help my friend." Even though when you do it, you're gonna feel really great about yourself, but in that heat of the moment, you're just gonna be like, "Do that tomorrow." Yeah. So the comfort zone it feels good because it's a nice place to be. It doesn't force you to extend or to stretch or to grow yourself. Um, but for the same reasons, that's why it's not a productive place to be.
Well, that's where most people find themselves, is in the latter, because they don't feel fully content, satisfied with where they're at. But then, if you're not willing to, I won't say necessarily do the work, because that's a negative way to look at it. But in terms of willing to stretch yourself, it's only you that can actually change that situation. And you've got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. Or what did I do? Did I, or didn't I do it?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's also important to find something that you really care about. So, or have a really strong, be almost mission driven as opposed to goals driven, because a lot of people, um, at the start of the year, for example, people set New Year's resolutions, right? And say, this year I'm going to lose, 10 stone. I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to get married, all these things, right? Um, but a lot of the goals that we set, and myself included, I'm no different. Um, they're goals to either benefit ourselves or goals to make us look good in front of other people, if that makes sense. Whereas what I've learned is the more you tie your goal to a mission or a sense of purpose to help either somebody you care about or to give back to your community, to give back to society, and just to use myself. This is why I sort of transitioned away from the corporate world, because success in the corporate world was about, and there's nothing wrong with this, was about getting promotions, getting bonuses, getting, all these sort of financial incentives to validate your performance. But now I've gone from there to a place where actually my biggest reward is, talking to people like you and, reaching your audience and saying, hey, this is my story, this is where I've come from, and hopefully by me sharing, you're able to look at your life in maybe a little bit of a different perspective and try for something which perhaps you wouldn't have tried for before today.
And do you think, from that perspective, Winston, I'll ask a more poignant question, do you think that in terms of to be able to grow your mission, and I obviously had the opportunity to watch some of your TEDx talk.
Oh, thank you.
In terms of just so I could get the actual how you operate, like, charismatically as a person. So it was. I think would you opening up your talk with laughter is like, okay, you did it from that perspective, as opposed to you encapsulate an emotion reaction straight away.
Mm.
Whether or not somebody finds it funny or not, but it's obviously, as you put it, from
I think it was funny.
as in this. Well, I think that you don't know what to expect, do you? It's like, we're going to go down this route in terms of inspiration, motivation again, but you turning it on its head and looking at it from a different perspective, I think is a good one. And in terms of, do you think from a mission statement, so to speak, that is now the new platform? So not necessarily a platform, but new way of engaging what is an ever-growing form of connection, because everybody can get access to anything on YouTube, social media, like Facebook Lives, YouTube, like you name it. You've got that access to the touch. But do you think that's what separates the better, I don't say necessarily the better people, but the better content, and puts you on a better platform?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's different things for different people. So for me, one of the reasons why I set a big mission, first of all, it has to be a mission that you care about. So for me, with my story and, maybe having a bit of a unique background to most people, and, with my condition, with, how I look, I'm completely different, but yet I'm very independent and I like to get involved in stuff. And so I wanted to go from a place where, because I'll be the person, who, because I'm out and about a lot, even just now saying to you, just come back in from a busy day of running around. And I'm one of those people, and you probably know people like this as well. I'll just talk to strangers in the street. Um, or they'll feel compelled to talk to me for some reason. Actually, it's normally the other way around. And I'll talk back. And people get curious because they say, oh my God, okay, so this guy, like little guy, wheelchair, he's out here just doing his thing in the middle of London. And people get curious about that sometimes. And then we have a conversation and they learn more about me. I say, actually, this is what I do. I'm a speaker. I do all of these, crazy things. And I could see that was when as I'm telling people that story, they're like, oh, I can't believe it's possible for this guy to do all of that. And, so where I wanted to go in my mission is to go from having those sort of one-to-one conversations and inspiring one person at a time to actually inspiring groups of people or big audiences because I realized that it was really rewarding for me to be able to just simply share my story. And, I don't think I've been through more adversity than anybody else or anything like that. And in fact, I always say to people, I think I've had a really good life. Um, but because my background is slightly different, if I can package that in a way that goes from helping one or two people at a time to helping hundreds and thousands and hopefully millions and billions of people, then for me that's the most rewarding thing I could do. And so that's why I set a big mission. And also from the fact, I don't know if you follow Les Brown at all.
Mm.
Yeah, so one of the things that he says, and for anyone who hasn't watched Les Brown, where have you been? Look him up. Um, Les Brown, amazing coach and speaker, says one of the biggest disappointments in life is when you set a mediocre target or goal and you actually achieve it. Uh, because you achieve something and you're like, oh, okay, I spent a whole year or a whole 2 years working for this goal and now I've got it. Um, I feel really uninspired now because I don't know what I'm going to do next. Um, so the other reason why I set a really big goal is to give me something to work towards for a long, long time. So my goal is to reach 1 billion people. I think I'm a really good speaker, but I doubt I'm going to speak to 1 billion people in the next, couple of years. I mean, you never know. My stuff could go viral. So guys, share this. but but I set a big goal to that. I've got something to work towards and something that I enjoy and feel passionately about, and hopefully you'll keep it going for a long, long time.
But then, Winston, you mentioned there in terms of being able to have that connection to 1 billion people, but talk to my audience about your, I won't necessarily call it insecurities, but that limiting belief you put on yourself that you believed, I can't do a TEDx talk. Well, okay, it was 12 months ago now, but you had a goal of setting out to do it within 3 years. What was kind of that limiting belief that you're putting on yourself, or why do I have to do it within that time frame as opposed to, as your coach put it, why not now?
Why not now? Yeah, you have been watching my videos. Yeah, and I think it's kind of related to what we touched on before, which is so limiting beliefs come from, I believe they come from us, whether in a place where we're looking to up level, to try something bigger, better, or different to what we've done so far. So, just like I said earlier, when I was a kid, I couldn't imagine that I'd have my own flat, in London, that I'll be able to drive a car or, travel in an aeroplane by myself to different countries and do the speaking stuff. And so just in the same way, 12 months ago, I hadn't done a TEDx, before. To be honest, I hadn't really done much public speaking at all because I came from a technical IT career. I was good talking one-on-one to people, but never spoke in front of an audience. And so I didn't have the evidence of me, I couldn't picture myself giving a TEDx, anytime soon. And so again, remember we said earlier, sometimes you need to borrow the belief of other people, right? So in the same way, my coach challenged me and said, yeah, you're saying you want to do this TEDx in 5 years' time, but what about now? And it hadn't even crossed my mind that this could be something that I could try for straight away. So I literally used the same principle and, I did need a bit of a push there was some resistance because I was still thinking, I don't know, this guy is a little bit crazy. What's he asking me to do? I'm not ready. Um, but sometimes you just have to kind of close your eyes and go with the belief of other people, just how we were discussing earlier on.
But you'd probably agree with me, Winston, if you're not ready now, in a certain circumstance, you'll never be ready.
Yeah, and in fact, I don't think, if you're trying to achieve, actually, let me even use a specific example, even with my speaking today, and I've been fortunate, after the TEDx, I've been invited to speak to many other places and organizations and events and stuff and amazing, podcasts like yours. Um, so I've had a lot of exposure, but even to this day, before I give a talk or before I give an interview, before I put myself out in public, like I'm doing now, I still have some apprehension. Yeah. So I'm still nervous. And, I speak to, I'm fortunate now that I know a lot of speakers who are really experienced, been in the game for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, some of them. And they say the same thing. They say before they go up on the stage, they have butterflies in their stomach. And I'm thinking, how? You've been doing this for 30 years. Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. But it's just one of those things that we fool ourselves into thinking there's going to come a day when I'm fully going to be ready for X. And X could be, working out, losing weight. X could be asking that girl out, or X could be, public speaking, whatever. Yeah. And so we're waiting for the perfect moment for all the ducks to be lined up in a row. And that is why many people end up getting trapped in the comfort zone in the same circumstances, seeing the same result because they're waiting for everything to be perfectly lined up. And the sad thing about perfection is I don't actually believe it exists. So you're waiting for something which is very, very difficult to attain. So start before you're ready.
Yeah, but I think also with the notion towards getting to perfection, well, we should sport an analogy. Well, the goalpost is ever going to ever be moving. It'll never be where you think you're going to shoot here. It's going to move.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I was watching, because I watch, when I give a talk and they give me the film or the video from the talk, I'd like to watch it back, just to kind of, as a way of learning and sort of seeing what I could improve for the next one. And so I was watching a talk recently that I did, maybe a few weeks ago, and I was critiquing a few things and thinking, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. But at the same time, when I stopped and I reflected, and then I tried to look at that talk from where I was 12 months ago, basically, and say, can you imagine if I told, 1 year ago, Winston, that I would have given a talk of this level, of this quality, I would have thought, this is the best talk ever. Like, there's no way I could improve this. Yeah. It's like, even with my TEDx, I watch my TEDx sometimes and, it's been really good. It's helped a lot of people, but from like a self-critiquing perspective, I can see so many things that are wrong with it. Yeah. And it's that whole thing which leads in nicely to what you said is, perfection it's a moving target, right? Um, just because I think I need to tick these 3 boxes today to be perfect, it doesn't mean that that's always going to be the same. In 6 months' time, it's going to be 6 boxes that I need to tick. So rather than chasing that, just try for something today. And even if, failure happens, just use that failure as feedback. Um, because I'd rather go on the stage, I'd rather go and do a TEDx before I'm ready, which is exactly what I did, and learn from the mistakes than say, oh, I'm going to wait 5 years and, then I've deprived people for 5 years of, hopefully receiving a message that was really valuable to them.
I think exactly. Well, I'm probably in the same sphere in terms of mine. I'm in the process of going for a course to do mine within the next the coach said 3 to 6 months. I'd probably push it out because you want to try and get it to hit the one that's going to make the most impact. So it's trying to see, well, is the message what I'm going to talk about obviously on the same wavelength as the theme? Obviously, if it isn't, you're not trying to fit, what's the analogy? A square peg into a round circle. It's not going to, in terms of trying to force something to work and it doesn't quite match, it's better to get it. But I think having that somebody, like you said, with a coach, making you be accountable and to hit the steps along the way. Mine's probably not as brazen as yours, going out there and diving head first into it. Mine's a little bit more, I won't say cautious, because he is critical and say, well, yeah, it's do the research, see if it's been done, obviously, because you don't want to regurgitate from a plagiaristic perspective something that's already been done. It's trying to be innovative and coming at something from a new perspective, which is not always easy, but it's looking at that. I think it's a great way to look at life. Really, it's coming at it from a new orientation. I think that's why obviously having coaches like ourselves is a good thing at times, because of the life experiences. You come at things from a different perspective. It's like, well, in terms of the person saying, well, I've tried this. Okay, let me come in from the left and say, have you tried this? And it's not even anywhere within their periphery. I've not even thought about that at all. I bet you have, probably subconsciously, but you don't think it's the right time or the right thing to do. It's probably has come across your psyche, but it's taken somebody else to probably put it front and center before you're thinking, well, okay, they think, why try this? Let me go ahead and attempt it.
Yeah, and I think just to put a disclaimer on it, I don't just try anything that pops into my mind. So I would recommend, for example, if you're thinking of driving a car and you've never had lessons, that you just go and grab the keys of a Lamborghini and take it for a spin. Don't do that, please. It's only going to end badly. But I think for me, it was almost like I don't want to be like all woo and stuff, but things just fell into place for me at the time. So, that challenge came from a coach who is somebody that I really respect. And so when he challenged me to look into the TEDx, I mean, I've coached with many other people, and chances are, if that statement came from one of the other guys, I would have probably ignored it. Yeah. But it came from somebody who I really respect. And with the timing at the time, it was a time when I was questioning myself and questioning what I wanted to do going forward, my mission, my legacy. And so, things just started to click. And so even when I applied for the TEDx, normally you don't get a TEDx straight away. You have to wait, 6 months, a year to find the right event, the right theme, the right topic, like you say, which fits with your message. But in my case, I literally got it in about 6 weeks. So from the time of application to actually being on the stage was about 6 weeks, which is ridiculous. So just things just sort of fell into place quickly, and I just found myself sort of like in a river being washed away by the current, and I just went with it. I didn't try to swim back to shore. I was just like, okay, let's see where this takes me. And fortunately, it took me to a nice beach and not like off the edge of a waterfall and down into the rocks. So, it's just, I guess the takeaway will be to sort of keep an open mind. Because we all have goals, like you with your talk and your TEDx, we all have goals, and we all have in our head a time frame as to how we would like things to unfold, comfortably for us. But at the same time, just keep an open mind in case, somebody might call you up tomorrow and say, hey, dude, do you want to come and speak at TEDx Los Angeles? Because we've had an opening and, your message, we've listened to your podcast and your message would be perfect for this. So, would you say no? Or, no, I still need to do my coaching and stuff. Or would you be like, hey, you know what, this is something to consider. So have a plan. but be prepared for that plan to be altered if hopefully better things fall out of the sky for you.
Well, I think from that perspective, I think, Winston, you need to look at it with each opportunity with a fine tooth comb. Obviously, to put it in perspective, that would probably be a big TEDx talk. Los Angeles, New York. I know. I think with my coach, he was saying, "Oh, is it TEDx London?" I was like, "No," but in terms of ones recently, they're kind of going more regionalized, I think, in terms of London perspective, by going boroughs. But I don't know if that's making it more community based as opposed to lumping it as Greater London as one entity. And then some probably couldn't relate by different areas of the city to others. But I think it does come down to the bigger impact that you're going to have, and obviously not being afraid of those kind of opportunities, because the bigger the better. It's just the way you perceive it. It's like, well, there's nothing to be so to speak scared of, because like you were saying, it's that even people with 30 years experience have the same emotional response before they go out on things, and you would assume that it isn't possible. It's the same with, you look at it from the different perspective with the athlete. You never hear an athlete say they're nervous after not even before, definitely not after the fact, but generally before an event major we'll put in terms of probably the FA Cup, because that's probably, and that's more poignant within British sport at the moment, and obviously, European football and things like that. Those would be of excitement. Physiologically, it's the same response. It's just your inner beliefs of how you portray it would be a simple way of how I would look at it. And I think because of maybe traits that you've learnt, you become more worried, more apprehensive to this opportunity, as opposed to most children will probably look at it with excitement. They're not scared of anything. It's like, well, this is opportunity that's been presented to me. What have I got to, not necessarily what have I got to lose, but they're going to take it with both hands and thank you very much.
And you know what I think it is as well, and I think the children one is a good example, because when we're young, like you say, we don't overthink things, we don't take things as seriously, and to some extent we are a little bit reckless because we're not too worried about the consequences of things, and that's probably why I broke a lot of my bones, because I was doing stupid things which I wouldn't do now when I was younger. But I think as well, some of the blockages that we have, and I think just to make it relatable to other people as well, some of the blockages that we have, whether it's public speaking, whether it's, starting your own business, relationship, health, anything, to be honest, the blockage that we get is because we get too attached to the result. So before you go on stage, you want to be perceived as the best speaker at that conference. You focus on that, or before you ask somebody out, for, if you're trying to get into a relationship with them, you're already thinking about the marriage, the kids, everything. You haven't been on the first date yet. Yeah. And so you put yourself under all this extra and I believe unnecessary pressure. When in fact, where you want to get to is a place where you can actually enjoy the process, which is what children do, right? When you ask a kid to build you a sandcastle, yeah, they're not thinking, oh my God, is this sandcastle going to win Sandcastle of the Year and, all these things. They just get a bucket and they start filling some sand in there and just doing their thing. And they've got a big smile on their face. They're covered in it. I mean, you're going to have to go and wash them after. But, they're just literally having the time of their life and in the moment when they're doing it. And so I think that's the secret. If you can get to a place where you can actually enjoy and be present, be authentic, which is what I try to do on the stage. So the way you see me on the stage is how I'd like to believe I am off the stage, because I just try to be myself, be relaxed, instead of going up there thinking, oh, I need to be the best, I need to win speaker of the night or whatever. I just go there and be the best Winston, and after that, everything else is a bonus.
So you would say encapsulate that all into one, well, not one sentence, but into one or a couple of words, is to take a leaf out of the book from a child's perspective.
Yeah. Within reason, yeah. Because I just believe life is much more enjoyable when you can actually. It's almost like injecting an element of play into everything that you do. Whether it's, like we said, setting up business or public speaking, going to the gym, whatever. Yeah, if you can make it fun, or if you can make it true to your personality and true to the things how you like to do or how you like to show up, then it's a lot easier than when you get all, bogged down and tied down with the end result. Because the end result might not come for another 6 months or 5 years or 10 years. So you're going to spend all of that time, uncomfortable, being anxious and worried when, you'd have a much happier experience if you took it day by day and just did the best version of you.
And my penultimate question to you, Winston, if you had to either get people to challenge or change their perception of their mindset, how would you get them to do that?
Come to one of my talks. And if that's not enough, for sure. I mean, to be honest, the simple tips would be for me, I'd say the biggest impact has been based off the people that I surround myself with. And I mean, this is common knowledge, right? So a lot of your perception is driven by your environment. Yeah. So if you're in an environment where people are thinking negatively, people are not ambitious, people are not trying for, big things, or people are not trying for different things because they think it's risky. And unfortunately, sometimes those people who hold us back are our friends, our family, and the people that care about us the most. And to be honest, it's not that they're holding us back because of any sort of malice. They're holding us back because they're afraid for us. It's almost thinking, I'm fortunate. My parents have always been supportive, but no one would blame them for thinking, oh my God, we don't want our son in, his little fragile body to go and be a speaker and travel all around the world by himself. I mean, anything could happen to it, right? And, that would be coming from a place of love. Yeah. But actually, what you need to do is find a balance in your network where, yes, of course, your parents and your close friends, they will always have some element of concern for you, but also put yourself in a position where you have coaches, you have mentors, or another group of friends who see, who have a, who are crazy enough to believe in the things that you believe in, basically. Because for me to say that I'm going to impact 1 billion people is a bit of a crazy statement, yeah, but I truly believe in it. And the more I put myself out there, the more I'm actually engaging and connecting with other people who see this for me. So if you can get yourself around people who see the same things that you see, then I would say that would be my top number one tip for changing that perspective that is perhaps negative at the moment.
And my final question to you, Winston, before we wrap up the episode, if you had to summarize into one sentence for people to take away what we've spoken about today, what would that be?
One sentence. I'm a public speaker. I've used more than one sentence. I would say, in summary, we talked about taking ownership of your life and not letting life happen to you. So not being passive, but instead just winning with whatever cards you've been dealt with.
I think that's the great way to finish it. So Once again, Winston, thanks again for coming on the Mindset Athlete podcast.
Appreciate you having me on, man. Hopefully we get to do this again.
It's been my absolute pleasure. If you like this episode, please do share it with your friends, and do let Winston and I know what you thought of the episode by tagging us over on Instagram at Winston Speaker and at James O. Roberts 11. Again, you can do that on Twitter and Facebook. And do check out his website, winstonclements.com. And once again, do check out my free content at fitamputee.co.uk/free-resources. Make sure to check those links out. The links will be in the description. You can find all the show notes at mindsetgame.libsyn.com under the category General. So once again, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of the Mindset Athlete podcast.